So welcome. Thank you. This is a test to see if it's helpful. Maybe it'll bring a little joy, maybe some ideas. We're not looking for pearl points on how to do this, but maybe we'll learn some things together. You don't realize things you're learning, people have not, don't know about, or maybe some folks will comment and share some things they're learning, like Judith or others who are joining us. So Beth and Gregg Neel, they are married for how long?
15 years.
15 years, and co-pastoring for
8.5. 8.5, yeah.
8.5 years in Westminster Presbyterian Church in Portland. Y'all may remember them, you General Assembly junkies out there. They were up front on the podium, but more importantly, part of the Committee on Local Arrangements for the General Assembly. Quick side note, Beth knows what I'm going to say. One of my favorite plenary presentations ever was the preview in Detroit, praying for Detroit today, at the Detroit Assembly when Beth was previewing the Portland Assembly. It was epic. Not everybody waits around till Saturday morning. But anyway, just such gifts. And they're also a parent of both a dog and a daughter. I won't say, which comes first.
The daughter, most days.
Okay, most days. And just thank you for taking the time today. We're not going to take too long, but hopefully it'll be helpful. So why don't you just share a little bit about more you'd think is important about your context, and maybe in addition to that, just talk about what has given you life, what is continuing to give you life. It's a vocational call question. Howard Thurman talks about we don't need to match up what the world needs and what your joys, but what is it that makes you come alive? Because that's what the world needs. Or as Katie Cannon says it, or said it, is what is the work your soul must have or has needed to have, and that's a question that's changing. So I'll pitch it over to either one of you to start and answer those questions as you'd like.
I'll do the context pretty quick. We're in
okay.
Interurban setting, Portland, Oregon, medium to larger size congregation. Like many congregations, we're skew older, variety of abilities in terms of our technology, which has been interesting for us to learn about. And we have a fairly large staff compared to many Presbyterian churches, and we're aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I would say we're urban residential, and normally we have one service on Sunday mornings, traditional, warm. Let's see. Yeah, it's traditional, but not stuffy, as I like to say.
And music is important. Music is
very important to the congregation. Yes.
I call us high church light.
Okay.
So what gives you life right now?
So what has continued to give me life is daily prayer, now a little more public than it had been, and being able to create something every day. And I got into paper mosaics a few years ago, but right now what I'm creating are worship videos, which is actually super fun, and I'm so glad that I have a 14-year-old at home who knows how to do iMovies. So it's a great family activity, but it really is a creative outlet for me. And
what? Well, I just want to hear, did you say you have a technology consultant at home?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
14-year-olds.
That's for giving her room and board.
Right. Teamwork.
The thing for me is watching creativity. That has been amazing. Watching, I'm on a Facebook group that pastors, leaders, PCUSA leaders, fascinating to watch what's happening with different folks. Thank you notes are giving me life. I'm realizing that I've always thought thank you notes were important, but now more than ever, being able to thank people. And Beth and Sarah and I do Comfort TV, and so we're watching some really fun shows right now.
Do you have a recommendation or two on the show side? I know everybody's asking that question.
So we have not watched Tiger King, because I need to make sure they don't harm any animals before I watch that. But Anything that Mike Schur does, The Good Place, Parks and Rec, The Great British Baking Show. We've been doing a lot of baking. The show Making It, which is hosted by Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman, which is sort of like crafters and makers competition. We really enjoy that.
2 movies that we really like that people might not have seen yet. Jojo Rabbit is really...
Although it does take place in Nazi Germany,
Yeah.
so you kind of have to put it in context.
Be
And
aware.
Knives Out. Knives Out. We recommend Knives Out. The movie.
Nice. We use Common Sense Media just to check some of those movies ahead of time sometimes to see what the recommendations are. But great ideas. I think it's interesting, both of you talking about doing creative stuff, but also watching creativity, engaging in it, and in some new ways. You talked about prayer. I think when I think about sort of Genesis 1, I mean, and we talk about our Creator. I mean, this is sort of one of the places to sort of center in. It's not just a sort of artistic exercise, right, or entertainment. It's also a spiritual exercise. I should have mentioned one of the things I admire about Beth. If y'all have not seen on her blog, by the way, also she writes "Hold Fast to What Is Good." There's the Matron Saints and some other art that she has done, and the art and the spirituality kind of come together. And I think that, and sounds like you're able to do that now in some new ways. Why don't you talk about that? Some new ways you're pastoring, either one of you, in these times. You talked about doing the daily prayer more publicly. I suspect that's one of the ways.
Yeah, we're doing noon Pacific time daily prayer on Facebook Live, and it's kind of overwhelming as people. I'm going to tear up just that as people join in and they're like, so and so's here, so and so's here, and it's like, oh my gosh, the church is still out there, and that and literally 2 Mondays ago at about 10 o'clock, I thought, I think I'm going to do daily prayer at noon today, and I did it, and so Monday through Saturday, that's what we do. We're trying to keep worship going, and for a congregation that loves music and loves our organist and hearing organ music and a 50 to 60 voice choir, this is really hard. The choir misses singing together. The congregation misses hearing the choir. So we have 3 opportunities for Sunday worship. As I said, my daughter and I put together a 15 to 20 minute worship video on iMovies, and we get different members of the congregation to read parts of the liturgy, because I think something that people are missing is seeing each other. So we try to have an age
different
of ranges,
faces.
Yeah, age of ranges, age of time at the church, all of that stuff. We also do, when we would normally worship at 10:30 on Sunday morning, Facebook Live worship that's basically announcements, because you have to have announcements, scripture reading, sermon, and prayers. So that doesn't have music. And then we also on our website have an order of worship, so you can read the liturgy with links to the music that the organist and choir would be doing if they were there, because again, very music oriented. The big thing is reaching those who don't have the internet, and so on Mondays we send a copy of the sermon manuscript and sort of what would be our what we call our announcement page that would go in the bulletin, just to let them know what's going on.
One of the things that we've learned is sort of the TED Talk model, is that 18 to 20 minutes of anything right now, because people's ability to concentrate is pretty low. And so like our worship service is like most churches, an hour. The videotape that Beth is doing is 15 to 18 minutes. When we do the worship live, we try to keep it to no more than 20, 25 minutes. We're getting really good feedback. People don't have to just sit and pay attention the whole time. Not that you do that when you're together in public worship, but I would recommend sort of a goal of 18 to 20 minutes for most folks. I know some churches are trying to do as much as they can live for 40, 45 minutes, and that gives life for some, but for our congregation, 18 to 20 minutes is pretty good.
It's enough.
I also want to say that our deacons and Stephen ministers have stepped up in a way that is just stunning.
Well, I wanted to hear more about how you're meeting those kind of pastoral needs, which are not just for you as pastors. By the way, Gregg, just come a little closer to Beth. Yeah, thank you. Don't want to lose you.
So tired. Sorry. So the
But
deacons and Stephen ministers have stepped up, and they are just going through the church directory, calling folks, checking in on them, finding out who wants to be called every week, every 2 weeks, doesn't need another call, who needs pastoral follow-up. Our colleague, our associate pastor, Lori Newman, is really overseeing the pastoral care, but the three of us talk several times during the week just to say who needs a call from a pastor, what are the public prayer concerns and what are the private prayer concerns. And people have really appreciated getting that call.
Yeah, I think no matter what size church, I think somebody in the congregation loves to talk on the phone. And
right.
you know, how do we find that? Because I think for us, the gift of having a little larger size, but the idea that the pastor has to do everything, no matter what size church. If you have 10 folks who are worshiping with you or 1,000, there still are some ways for us to use each other's gifts. And finding people who love to be on the phone, there's got to be somebody. So it's been good for us to watch others do that good care over the phone, or at least hear about it.
So I'm seeing how our time is flying, and I'm going to take your guide, if y'all have the time, to maybe shift out to about 18 to 20 minutes. We'll keep going for people who want to stay with us. I want to shift to the leadership kind of side, the administrative stuff, the governance stuff that you do. And but I wanted to tie up one thing with pastoral care. Hospital visits. This is a whole new world, right? So I'd love to hear your response, how you're handling that.
Well, just advice, not firsthand, but this is what we're hearing. There are chaplains in hospitals, and we need to connect with them, because we're trying to model that we're not going into hospitals and nursing homes and things like that. Tell them about Lori, though, with Bud Frometh.
Oh, we have a retired minister in the congregation who's in a retirement assisted living community. And today, our associate pastor, Lori, and this man's son are doing a sing-along of, is it Skype or Zoom somehow, with him, because we're, as Gregg said, we're trying to model, we're not doing those visits, which is not to say you can't call or ask the chaplain to go in, but for their sake and ours, we're not doing that. And that's hard, but that's what the time we're in.
Great. How about and by the way, hello there, Byron Wade in Raleigh. Hey, he's saying hello to you all. On the leadership administrative side, I mean, getting the checks written, the stewardship side, that's another part of kind of that leadership side, and government. How does your session operating? What are some things there you're finding and learning, and is life-giving and to you?
Right. So two things I would just highlight for folks. Because of the size of our session, this works for us. It won't work for many. We formed an administrative commission made up of Beth and I and some elders, and we're just paying attention to the finances, and the session has given them authority to make decisions, that we're not trying to do that. We're just doing it as quickly as we can and with trust. So we have a chair of stewardship, a chair of personnel, finance administration, and Beth and I, the treasurer and the clerk of session. So for other folks, they might not need something like that, but that's been really, really helpful. We've been able to make quick decisions, and that have been able to move fast. The stewardship thing, I would say, is that's kind of one of my areas I'm fascinated by. If you're a pastor and you don't know what people are giving and you don't want to deal with that, you need to find out right away from whoever knows who's giving to your church, who's given in the last month, and send them a thank you. All you have to say to them is, Beth is our financial secretary, and she shared with me who's been able to make a gift in March. I just wanted to reach out to you and thank you. Yep. Whether it's an email, I know people are getting different information about handwritten notes. Text, but it's worth, as a pastor and friends, it's not your stewardship chair or your finance chair unless you have an elder or somebody who's in charge who's got that kind of relationship. But the pastor reaching out and saying thank you for your gift in March. Today's April 1st. That would be a good thing. And don't should on yourself, as they say in 12 steps. Should on yourself. But try to do a couple. Whatever, yeah. So that's been the two helpful things for us is the administrative commission and writing thank you notes as fast as we can that honor the gifts that people are making. Because we also are always saying we understand that right now many of you cannot make gifts. We say that as many different ways as we can.
We also make clear how you can give to the church, online giving, send a check. And in terms of just the function of the church, the way our offices are laid out is we can have two people there that are like 10 to 20 feet apart. So there's one person in the office every day because we need to get mail. So we can process those checks that are coming in and we can get our bills.
Right.
Our bookkeeper, we've worked it all out. So there's one person in the office every day. And other than that, we had a virtual staff meeting yesterday that was good. But we're trying to keep the functions of the church going safely.
And you did mention Zoom bombing early. So
yes.
You might inform people that they just need to Google Zoom bombing if they use Zoom. It's just something to learn.
Man. Yeah, I mean, so it's about if there's a public Zoom link. I mean, anybody can join you, and maybe not for good.
And nextchurch.net linked a really helpful article about that. I think it was just yesterday. So
okay,
go there.
They're great people over there. Well, I'm going to go with your 18 minutes. We could probably talk a long time, and I actually would like to talk with you. I'm going to circle back on a more personal topic you're reminding me of, but I'm just so grateful and know that what you're doing is making a difference in the lives of your community, I'm sure in your church, and you can see it in your faces. I think that you're doing it together as co-pastors, but also, you have people taking different pieces, doing the hymn sings with folks over the phone, and they're help that your daughter is pitching in and using her gifts in some new ways. Not doing this alone, it can be overwhelming. I mean, Elizabeth, my wife, keeps telling me we can't do, and there's a lot of articles about this, we can't do the same amount of work even that we were doing. And in a way, when you're online, it's like it never stops. I mean, so please do, and I know you do, take care of yourself and take those walks and do that art. And but thank you for the ways you're engaging. And I love your daily prayer, Beth. It's really beautiful. I've been enjoying. I think something too is, I don't know if y'all have done this, is because of that, I've been able to hear people pray and preach and sometimes sing and do things that I don't normally get to see. Small churches, larger churches all across the country, and that's a real gift. So just thanks, Wayne Yost is thanking you and others. We're just grateful. And any other final words of blessing you'd like to share?
The only thing
to the folks out there.
It's been amazing for us to watch how far behind we thought we were in some things, and then to watch how different people do different gifts. And
right.
I would just encourage folks, you can't, like you just said, we can't do everything. If you learn one thing and do it for a week, that's great. That's been helpful.
So I would say your congregation might be giving you a lot of suggestions. I mean, we've had half the choir say, let's do a virtual choir. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I do not have the bandwidth to do this right now, but thank you. And I would just reiterate what you said, Lee. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you're doing the stuff you're supposed to be doing, resting, praying, eating sensibly, getting exercise, turning off the screens. And God's going to love you no matter what happens.
Amen. Byron is asking, how are you taking care of your spirit? And it sounds like you just gave an answer to that.
Yeah, I also find myself, if I read the news, I go to the dark side. And so I really have to limit how much information is taken in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that besides Comfort TV, we both are doing comfort reading. I'm rereading books that I love.
Great idea.
That's a spiritual thing for me, a gift.
I'm rereading The Lord of the Rings because it's just, the books are so much better than the movies, but it just is a story of people who went through hardship together, right?
Beautiful. Yeah.
And I'm a nerd.
Yeah. And you're a nerd, and we love that. Y'all both are. It's so good to hear you laugh. So good to literally see you. And let's check in again soon. And best to your daughter and to your dog and to Portland, to Westminster, and know that the one who created you, the one who redeemed you, the one who sustained you, just as you said, Beth, is with us all the time.
Yes.
Thanks, Lee.
Amen.
Amen.
Peace be with you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thanks. Bye-bye.